How's it going, guys? Welcome again to my channel. In this video, we're going to be focusing on setting up our database and creating our database tables using migrations, along with creating the models that we're going to need for our for storing information within the database itself. So, Laravel offers a simple solution to creating database tables in the form of migrations. Now, the biggest benefit to using migrations would be version control for your database. So now I'll explain the rest as we go along, but for now, the first thing I want to do is create our table or our database. So I'm going to call it uh, underscore v1 because I already have a database called IT Service Manager. All right, by the way, I'm using MySQL Workbench for that. Okay, so now I need to grant privileges to our user, and we can select all of the privileges. By the way, if you're not selecting all of the privileges, make sure you select the drop privilege over there. Otherwise, you're gonna have issues when you run migration. Okay, we can close that. All right, so now how I'm going to go about creating the migrations for our applications. Let me first type it out and then I'll explain. And, all right, so the first one I'm going to create is going to be company uh, detail. All right, so and then I'm going to also add a slash m at the end. So here's how this is going to work. I want all of the models that I'm going to create within a separate folder called models, which is going to create it under the app folder there. And then this dash m, what it's going to do is it's going to create a migration file here within this database folder, and then it's going to create a migration within this folder here. So as you can see, there's a couple. These ones came by default with Laravel. So in any case, what Laravel will do is it'll create a table, data a migration file matching this model name that we've created here. So if I were to show you, for example, if I press enter, it's going to create a migration file plus a model within our app folder over there. So as you can see, it created a migration file. Basically, the name of our database table is going to be company details. So what it'll do, when you do it this way, it'll try to match whatever it'll try to name the database table based on how you named your model over here. So I find it a little bit easier to do it this way so that our models and database tables match up. All right, and then if you check under the app folder here, there's a folder over there called models, and then there's our model over there. And so basically that's how I'm going to be creating all of the rest of the models and migration files within our migrations folder over there. So now the next one that I'm going to create, I'm going to do the same step, and then I'm going to name this uh, sorry about that. This is the model or the table that where we're going to be storing our the company details or the company address. So I'm going to press enter, and then again it's going to create a migration file over there. And then the next one should be we already have the users one, so we don't need to create that. So we're going to be creating our services table. So for that, I'll name, okay, and then the next one we need is contract. And then the next one we need is resource. Okay, and then the other one is create request. And then let me just clear this console over here. All right, and so the other one we're gonna need is request updates. And then the last one we're gonna need is completed request. Just need to remove that. All right, so those are all the tables we're gonna need for now. Okay, so the first one I want to modify, the migration file that I want to modify is the users. Okay, I'm gonna change that just to be safe to increments, and then the column is gonna be ID. And then what I need from the user's name, we're gonna need a first name and a last name. So I'll change that from name to first name. And just gonna copy that a couple of times. Um, this will be last name, and then we have the email, and then we have the password. So the other ones that we're gonna need is the what you call it, the user type. So I'm gonna paste that, and then we're also gonna need verified, and then we're also gonna need a token. And so here within the first one, it's going to be verified, and then this I want it to be an integer, and then by default it's going to be 0. Okay, email we have, password we have. The other one we need is the token, and then this one is going to be nullable. And then what else? I think that should be it um, in terms of what we need for the users table. So it's password, verified, token. Um, we don't need that first name there. All right, let me just verify quickly. Sorry, actually I'm wrong. We need the user type. Okay, I just want to organize these as such. And then user type will be that. I want the password to also be there, and I want the token as well. I'm just reorganizing these so that um, it doesn't really matter though, but I just prefer it this way in my case. Okay, all right, so that's all we need in terms of the all we need for the users table. Now the next one is going to be company details. I'm also going to change that to increments and label the column ID. Just going to paste a couple of these fields. Okay, so the company details, we're going to need an integer, and then this will be the client client ID. It's going to be unsigned. Okay, and then the other one is going to be company name, um, enterprise type, and then industry, Worktel. So this one will be art, contact. This one can be nullable, but these two over here, I need to change that. Um, that cannot be null. Also, that cannot be null. Company name cannot be null. Right, out contact and then out email. Okay, I think that's all we need. Now the next one is going to be the company address. Oh, actually, no, sorry, I forgot something. We need to we need to get the foreign key. Sorry, it's ID, and the table is going to be users. Oh, by the way, so we said client ID, correct. And then the last one is, and that will be cascade. Okay, so that's our foreign key over here. Um, so what we need now is the company address. Let me just close these tabs here. Again, I'm going to say ID. Okay, so the first one is going to be an integer. All right, that's the company ID, which is referencing the company details table, right? And then that would be the office number. Just gonna remove those. Okay, so office number and then street name, suburb, city, and then the last one is gonna be zip code. Okay, obviously we need to get our foreign key. and that will be the company ID, which references the company details table. Sorry about that. I need to say references ID on the company details table. And then I'll say cascade. Sorry. Okay. All right. Then the next one is going to be services. This is going to be fairly simple. It's just going to be ID. It's going to be table name. Sorry. Service name. So this will be device range, and then description. This will be text, and then this will be the fee. All right, so that's all we need for the service table. We can close that and that one there, and then the contracts. Okay, say ID. This one will be integer. This is going to hold the service, the ID of the service the client will have selected, and then the next one is going to be the client ID. And then these two are going to be strings. So this is going to hold the document name or SLA document, and then document location, which is also going to be a string. And then we need the foreign keys. Oh, sorry, actually it's supposed to be company ID, not client ID. Right, so I'm just going to copy that there. I'll paste it 2 times. This one will be service ID as the foreign key, and then references ID on services. Okay, that's all for the contract. So this is just going to hold the ID of the service declined, and then it's going to be related to that particular company. and then the SLA document and document location will be stored here. Now we're just going to do the resource table. All right, this is going to have quite a number of columns. So what I'll do is I'm just going to pause the video, add those columns, and then I'll explain them one by one once I'm back. One moment for me, please. All right, guys, I'm back. All right, so as you can see, what we have here is the company ID, the category, the resource name, description of the resource, the serial number, and the file number. I actually forgot to add one more field in here, which is supposed to be uh, model number. Apologies for that. And then if like there's an attachment involved, then we can store the file name and the file path here. And then there's also a comments table. This is going to be a string, I mean a text field. Also, this is also going to be a text field. And then these two are just dates, date purchased and date installed. All right, so that's our resource table. But when we create the form where we're gonna install, where we're gonna store information within this table, I'll explain everything in depth once we get to that part. But for now, these are all the columns that I'm gonna need. The one last thing is to add the foreign key. So let me just take the company details foreign key table there, and then just set it here. All right, so that should be all for the resource table. Now the create requests, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the create resource table. I'm just going to pause the video, add the columns, and explain afterwards so that you guys don't have to sit and watch me type all of that out. All right, guys, I'm back. Okay, so in the requests table, we have the client ID as the foreign key, the case ref number column, the request type column, category, subject, description. If there's a file, the file name will be stored here, and then the file path on this column over here. And then by default, when they create a request, it will be open. It will be the status and the action state will be open. And then as I said, the foreign key will be the client ID. Okay, so the next one is going to be the request updates. I'm going to create that one as well, and then I'll explain after I'm done. All right, guys. So this is the request updates table. Obviously, there's an ID, and then the request ID. This is going to reference whatever the the request has been logged, and then this will be updated by, and then this will log the name or the ID of the user who did the update itself. And then obviously here will be where they type in whatever comment or update they wanna store in regards to the case or the request that has been logged. And then obviously here we're getting them as the reference keys. I mean the foreign keys. All right, so the last table should be the completed requests. So I'll do the same thing, then I'll explain once I'm done. All right, guys. Okay, so the completed requests table is going to take up a similar structure to the create request update. I mean the request update table, but the only difference is that we have two fields here, problem and solution. So this will be where the user will state what the actual problem was regarding to whatever the client requested or whatnot, and the solution they implemented to resolve the issue. And then obviously here we are getting the ID of the user who closed the request. Closed the request, and then the ID of the request that's being closed. And then obviously here we are getting them as foreign keys. Okay, so I think that's all the tables. But just to be sure, I just want to make sure that we got everything. So it's the users. Sorry about that. The users table. Everything should be fine there. Company details, client ID, integer, unsigned, correct. And then the company ID, unsigned, that's correct as well. Services, we don't need anything here except that. Contracts, integer, unsigned, correct. Resources table, the only foreign key is that. That should be fine. Company ID, Okay, create request, client ID, references users. That should be fine. Actually, what I'm checking for is the foreign keys because these have a tendency of giving errors. So that's why I'm verifying if we got everything correctly. And then the request, update, same thing, unsigned integer, and completed. All right, guys. So everything seems to be in order. So the only thing that's left now is to run the migrations themselves. So before we do that, the first thing we need to do is configure our database connectivity. So to do that, we first need to do it here within the .env file, and then over there where it says Laravel, we're going to change the database name to IT service manager underscore v1, and then the username and password on my side it's uh, Jason, and then username and password is Jason123. Okay, so we need to do the exact same thing, but in the config folder where it says in the config folder there's a database file there. We need to do the exact same thing there, and then username again is Jason, and then password is Jason123. So make sure if you're using MySQL, it needs to be in the MySQL array over there. And then, if I'm not mistaken, everything should be in order. So now we can run that migration. Okay, so I'm gonna say PHP artists. All right, so this command is basically gonna run all of these all of the files that are in this migration folder over here. We don't need the password reset and what you call it, failed jobs one, but we'll just keep them there for now. All right, so hopefully if I've done everything correctly, it should create our tables. Okay, so looks like there's no issues there. And then now if we come into our database, we should see these tables created. So I'm just gonna log in there. And then we're gonna say use IT and then underscore v1. And then if I say show tables, okay, so those are all our tables there. And by the way, like I said, my migrations help you with version control. So if we select everything there in that migration, it created a migrations table. And then if you say select all from migrations, now as you can see, all the tables that are there are basically all of these files that are under the migrations folder. So that's what I meant when I said it's at the very least as what you call it, you can keep you can have your you can maintain your database versions um, what you call it, you can maintain them, without compromising your database. So yeah. All right, so I think that should be it for the video. I think that's all. In the next video, we should at the very least try and test and see if we can store the customer's details within the within all of the respective tables. All right, so I'm gonna end the video here. Um, again, guys, I appreciate all the support. For those of you who haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll be seeing you guys within the next video. All right, cheers for now.